Hey yo, brothers, I'm watching Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. The reason why I'm watching this show is because they're talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. ESPN and other sports show networks, they really didn't want to talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers. So I tapped into this because they're covering it from a more nuanced perspective, and I can dive into the actual issues that took place in that Cavaliers series. I'm gonna tap into this.
Should he definitely be back?
I think he definitely should be back, yes. And I know that's not very popular. I know.
They're talking about JB Bickerstaff, the coach of the Cavaliers, and should the Cavaliers bring him back. I'm not sure what the Cavaliers' options are when it comes to coaching, but JB Bickerstaff, he has to implement an offensive system. You have to. The Cavaliers do not have a real offensive system implemented. Their offensive system was Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell, have the ball at the top of the perimeter, pick and roll sets, isolation sets. Pretty much that's it. Pick and roll sets where Donovan Mitchell or Darius Garland will end up shooting a difficult shot in traffic or get a very highly contested shot going towards the rim or take a three. In the event that they don't shoot the ball, they'll try to go for the lob, and that's pretty much it. It's a very surface level offense, a very checkers level offense. There's no chess, there's no real strategy involved in it. And when you go against a high level defensive coach and mastermind like a Tom Thibodeau, he's going to be able to pick up on that and see how predictable your offense is, and he's going to be able to stop you from being successful. They don't. The Cavaliers had a very difficult time getting back in transition. A lot of people talk about the rebounding effort. Yes, the rebounding was a problem, but the Cavaliers did a terrible job of getting back in transition. When the New York Knicks did out-rebound them, not only did they out-rebound them, but they also got back in transition extremely quick and were able to turn those rebounds into points. Those rebounds mean absolutely nothing if they're not able to turn those rebounds into points. That was the issue. They were able to turn those rebounds into transition points. The Cavaliers also have to figure out what is their pace of play. Being a championship team, you have to be able to win in a multitude of ways, multiple different styles. You have to be able to adapt. The Cavaliers seem like they can only win one way. And the only way that they can win is really if Darius Garland or Donovan Mitchell are both dominating, just dominating. You have other talented guys on this team, and you have to figure out ways to get them more involved and get them effective, particularly Evan Mobley. Going into next season, I'm going to look for Evan Mobley to take that jump to being a 20-point per game guy. And the guy I'm looking at to help him get to that point is Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. They have to make sure they're doing a good job of empowering Evan Mobley. They have to make sure they're doing a good job of getting him the ball, making sure that they pit the onus on him to be the most dominant player on the team, because he has to be the most dominant player on the team. He has to be the best player on the team if the Cavaliers are really going to be successful in winning a championship over the next 3 to 5 years. Your best player on your team cannot be 6'1". Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland are both 6'1". There's only so much they can do in a playoff series. Your best player on your team has to be at least 6'4", 6'5". But tap back into this.
People are going to scream and holler and say, you're an idiot, he's got to go. I think that's emotional and reactionary in the moment. I think it's an incomplete. I don't know how you can grade him.
You grade him based on what he did in this series. In this series, he showed a lack of ability to make adjustments, in-game adjustments. He didn't really have a real game plan against the Knicks. Like I said, the Cavaliers are really only capable of winning in one way, in one style. Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell on the perimeter. And if they're not making their shots, what's next? What does Donovan Mitchell do when his shot is not falling? What does Darius Garland do when his shot's not falling? Darius Garland, he needs to put on some weight. He needs to hit the weight room and get a little bit tougher, get a little bit stronger. Because when your shot is not falling, you have to find other ways to be effective. As you can see, a guy like a Josh Hart was able to go out there and get 7, 8 rebounds. Yes, give it, he is 6'4". But in general, it's effort. It's effort and having an eye for the ball, and you need to have different pieces in order to win a championship on a team. You can't have every guy going out there with the mindset of scoring. That's why I think it's very important to keep Isaac Okoro, even more so than a Karis LeVert. I would prioritize keeping Isaac Okoro more than a Karis LeVert, and the reason for that is that Isaac Okoro, at least he provides me with some type of nuance on the floor. Obviously, he needs to improve his perimeter shooting, which probably won't happen too much. But in general, he is a defender. He can be that gritty guy on your team that you need to win a championship. Karis LeVert, I would really consider moving on from Karis LeVert, even though the Cavaliers don't really have that much depth, so they kind of have to keep him. But Karis LeVert, he stagnates your offense. He's an isolation, tunnel vision type of guy, and that's the problem. He has a lot of tunnel vision out there. When he gets the ball in his hand, the first thing he's looking to do is just go into isolation mode, tunnel vision mode, and attacking his defender, and he's really not that good at it. It's one thing if he's a Jamal Crawford type or a Lou Williams type, but he's really not. He's more like a poor man's Monte Ellis type. Occasionally he'll go out there and put up a 30-point game or a 25-point game and make you look at him like, wow, Karis LeVert is a really good player. But then Karis LeVert will go out there and put up a 10-point game on 2 of 9 shooting, because Karis LeVert is a very inconsistent player. When he's on a team like the Brooklyn Nets a few years ago, or the Indiana Pacers last year, or a couple years ago, yeah, he could put up good numbers when he's the head honcho. He could put up some 19, 20-point games per season. But in general, on a playoff team, Karis LeVert is going to be that guy coming off the bench, giving you a couple buckets off the bench, man. Just giving your team a little spark off the bench. That's all he is, man. And JB Bickerstaff inserted him into the starting lineup and took Isaac Okoro out of the starting lineup. Isaac Okoro is your team's pretty much best defender outside of Evan Mobley. And when I say best defender, I'm talking about on the perimeter. I would have had Isaac Okoro defending Jalen Brunson for the entire game. I'm telling Isaac Okoro, look, sir, you have 6 fouls. Don't be afraid to use them. Obviously, you used them wisely, but I need you defending Jalen Brunson all game. You need to stop him. You need to stay in front of him. Put a body on him. Don't be afraid to guard him. Don't be afraid to touch him up. Once again, JB Bickerstaff, when it comes to his coaching and his game plan and his strategy, I didn't see him making any adjustments when RJ Barrett started going off. All season long, RJ Barrett was looked upon as pretty much an average player. RJ Barrett, coming out of high school, he was looked at as being the number 1 prospect, a number 1, number 2 overall prospect. Most people consider RJ Barrett to be a bust. He comes into this series and he turns into an all-star. Why is that? Why is that happening? What adjustments are you going to make? And you're supposed to be a high-level NBA coach, meaning you're supposed to understand the game better than I do. You get paid millions of dollars to do this. You're supposed to be able to understand what it is that RJ Barrett is doing and why is RJ Barrett dominating you in this series. He hasn't dominated all series long, but he's dominating now. Why? What adjustments are you going to make? Tapping back into this.
Look at what he was given. This is a coach, and I know you have to adapt your style to your personnel. I wholeheartedly agree with that. But he likes playing big. He's said it multiple times. He proved it last year with the market and Mobley Allen. He likes size. He likes playing big.
He likes playing big, but at the end of the day, I think he should have played Robin Lopez a little bit more, because I think that Robin Lopez would have been able to battle down there and wrestle down there a little bit with Mitchell Robinson. When you look at how little effective Jared Allen were and Evan Mobley were in that series, it really wouldn't have hurted you that much to put a Robin Lopez out there. Several times throughout the series, I saw Jared Allen having the ball in his hands at the top of the key. Why? Why does Jared Allen have the ball in his hands at the top of the key? For a dump off, a pass off, a handoff, whatever it may be. Why? He's no threat from out there. He can't shoot from out there. I saw JJ Redick's podcast a few days ago, and JJ Redick said the next evolution in Evan Mobley's game is going to be him being able to knock down perimeter shots, and I agree with that 100%. Evan Mobley has to be able to knock down perimeter shots. If Evan Mobley can knock down perimeter shots, it spaces out the floor. It helps Donovan Mitchell. It helps Darius Garland, because that's one of the issues. The lane is entirely too clogged and congested. When you have when your 2 guards are 6'1", the lane cannot be clogged up and congested like that. It can't be. You have to have spacing on the floor. Jared Allen has to be able to knock down more mid-range shots. Nothing too deep. 12 to 15 feet from the basket, he needs to be money. Same thing with Evan Mobley. 12 to 15 feet from the basket, you need to be money. Evan Mobley, he has to work on his face-up game a little bit. He does. If he's going to be that great player. But he definitely has to be able to knock down shots from 12 to 15 feet from the basket. And he needs to try to extend his range out to the perimeter, which I'm not sure if he's going to be able to do. A lot of people say, a lot of people get on me when I talk about Evan Mobley. I have no doubt in my mind that Evan Mobley can develop into a good player. But what I don't see in Evan Mobley is that dog, that alpha male, that dog, that leader, that vocal guy, that Jimmy Butler, that Jimmy Butler personality. I don't see it in him. That Patrick Beverly personality. I don't see it in him. Just saying, like, there's certain guys that just have a certain personality. Just have that dog in them that are very assertive. And at the end of the day, if you want to be a true champion, you have to be assertive.
He had no bigs to bring off the bench in this series.
You had Robin Lopez. They had Robin Lopez. And I know a lot of people may look at me crazy when I say Robin Lopez, but Robin Lopez actually would have helped you in this series because I think that Robin Lopez, if you put him out there, he could have done some gritty work down there. And I don't think he would have been afraid of Mitchell Robinson the way that Evan Mobley and Jared Allen were afraid of Mitchell Robinson. Because all this shows is that y'all are not ready for Giannis and you are not ready for a Joel Embiid. Because Joel Embiid and Giannis would have punished you way more than Mitchell Robinson. If you have Mitchell Robinson problems down there with your bigs, you're going to have really bad Jared Allen problems. And not Jared Allen problems. You're going to have really bad Joel Embiid problems. You're going to have really bad Jokic problems. You're going to have really bad Giannis problems. And you're going to have to go through one of those guys, if not both of those guys, or all of those guys, if you're going to win a championship.
None. Dean Wade threw up all over his shoes. And he was the one guy who was the stretch four who we thought could stretch the floor, give him some rebounding. He was supposed to be that Kevin Love replacement. And he was just haunted by Kevin leaving Cleveland and fell apart.
But Jason, let me ask you this though. Like you just mentioned the Heat. Like Eric Spoelstra is one of the best coaches in the league.
They are
right?
the anomaly. They're not the norm. But it proves that it is possible.
Right.
With good scouting, good development, good coaching, it's possible.
I don't think it's a short thing that
The Miami Heat have Jimmy Butler. They have a true alpha male on their team. And when you have a true alpha male on your team, a lot of times that alpha male component can transcend you being better, your skill set. It can transcend your skill set. Jimmy Butler isn't a better player than Giannis. Not by a long stretch. Not at all. But when you have heart, belief, confidence in yourself, a lot of times that can offset a lot of your deficiencies. It's not the fact that he is better than Giannis, it's the fact that he believes he's better than Giannis and he believes that he can win a championship. Simple as that. It's about belief. And a lot of the battle is mental, not physical.
he should be fired. I do think he's probably going to be back, but at least behind the scenes, if there's a
I'm not sure if JB Bickerstaff is going to be back or not. I'm just not sure, man, because once again, the Cavs, they need real coaching. They need high-level coaching if they're going to take that next step. I would love to see a Nick Nurse coach this team because I think that Nick Nurse has an ability to actually implement an actual offensive system and a defensive system. Once again, the Cavaliers don't have any offensive system out there. I don't know if you can say it's because of their personnel, but in general, they don't have a real offensive system. There was very much stagnation. Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, there's only so much they can do, especially when Donovan Mitchell and Darius Garland don't know how to play off the ball. There needs to be a coach that comes in there that teaches them to play off the ball, teaches them to move the ball around. When the Cavs did move the ball around throughout this series, they were actually successful. The problem is they resorted back into bad habits that they built up throughout the regular season. And that's what the regular season is about. It's about establishing and creating and building good habits. That's all it's about. You know, the regular season is just for show, but it's really just about building good habits so that when you get to the postseason, you run it on automatic. Things become second nature.
if there's a guy you think is a better coach, shouldn't that be considered?
Of course. And
Right.
that's why I've said for months.
Yeah, if there's a better coach out there, I'm just not sure if that coach is out there right now. I think they're kind of stuck with what they got.
A lot of teams are going to have the Ime Udoka conversation because he was the best coach on the market, and Houston beat everybody to the punch.
Yeah, yeah.
Houston.
Yeah, Ime Udoka, a lot of guys are going to want Ime Udoka, and Houston, they definitely did beat him to the punch. I'm not sure why Ime Udoka rushed to get that job. I mean, I'm sure he could have had whatever job he wanted come this offseason. I'm sure a lot of people would have reached out to him, but he did what was best for him. And I'm sure he wanted to be in the Houston area anyway.
Knew that he was going to be the hottest coach on the market, and
Yeah.
they snatched him now before other teams could really start making moves and firing their coaches.
Right.
Nick Nurse is out there. I know he won a championship. There's just, I'm not sure that that's really, I mean, talk to people in Toronto. I
Yeah.
just don't know that that's really where you want to go. And outside of that, I don't know that there's a great coaching option out there.
Right.
That
I
is
wouldn't just go some
significantly
random
better.
young coach.
And that's the
the
thing. Like, that's anytime you have a conversation with someone, a GM or front office guy about firing a coach, the first thing they say is, okay, who are you going to get?
Right.
You got to make sure.
Yeah, who are you gonna get? Who are you gonna get? And I mean, Steve Kerr, when he took over the Golden State Warriors, I don't think he had any coaching experience. In general, it's just about your ability to implement a system. That's what it's about. You have to implement a real system, a real basketball system, a real offense, man. That's what it's about. And you have to have a mind and a brain that guys will listen to. I mean, maybe a Nate McMillan might work. Maybe I'll bring on a Nate McMillan. I'm sure he's out there. Got to bring somebody in that's going to bring in an offensive system that the Cavaliers can buy into and are going to buy into. Because what happened last year isn't going to work. So unless JB Bickerstaff is going to come into next season with a different mentality and different approach and say, yo, guys, we got to have an offensive system, he has to go. And that's what the general manager of the Cavaliers has to be thinking and taking into consideration when it comes to JB Bickerstaff and the coaching, future of this team.
You get somebody better than the guy you got, or what are we doing here? And that's the hard
Yeah.
part of this. I don't think, listen, JB did not have a great series, but I would put him third or fourth or fifth on the list of why they're in this position.
Here's
I understand all that. But coaching was a huge problem in this series. Huge problem in this series. And we can't just dismiss that. I mean, just because he isn't the number one reason why the Cavs lost doesn't mean that he doesn't need to go. I'm not going to be out here rooting for a brother to get fired or lose his job or whatever like that. Even if he did lose his job, I mean, he still would be getting paid for the next 3-4 years and making millions of dollars. And he'd get an assistant coaching role where he'd be probably making, six figures doing that. So, I mean, what are we really saying here? I mean, it's not like he's going to lose his whole life. His whole life is going to be in shambles if he gets fired from the Cavaliers. I mean, but this is pretty much his last coaching opportunity. JB Bickerstaff will not get another coaching opportunity probably after this. So he needs to make sure that if he does go into next season, it needs to go in next season is his last season. He's on the hot seat after this season, though. He can't have another playoff series like this if the Cavaliers do keep him.
Here's why this is a major issue. Is because when JB does not have an offense, when you have a limited roster.
Thank you, sir. But I'm not sure where he's going with this, so I'm going to let this roll.
From a skill set standpoint, you cannot just roll the ball out there and run pick and roll all season and not develop any sort of go-to. Like, that's not going to work.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Lord have mercy. Thank you. That's what I've been saying the whole video, man. JB Bickerstaff does not have an offensive game plan. He does not have an offensive strategy. He does not have an offensive system. You have to implement an offensive system if you're going to win championships. Simple as that, man. Your offense is entirely too predictable. It's very stagnant. There's no nuance to it, and it'll win you games in the regular season. But in general, when you get into a series, guys are going to be able to predict what you do. You're going to have personnel and matchup issues. They're going to lock you down. That's the reason why y'all lost in 5 games, man. Outside of Darius Garland just having a hot game in game 1. I mean, not game 1, game 2. And Donovan Mitchell had a great game in game 1 as well, and they really should have won that game 1. They really should have, but they just couldn't get the job done. And had they won game 1, that might have changed the outcome of this series. This becomes a 7-game series, and anything could happen. But I think that it was very important that the Cavaliers lost the way that they did because it humbled them. Had they lost in the second round in 7 games, or had they lost in the conference finals in 5, they would have looked at things a whole lot differently. They would have been like, you know what, yeah, we still good. We just got to work a little bit harder, and we'll be back next season. No, losing this way, in the traumatizing way, the embarrassing way that you lost, makes everybody realize how much better they have to be, including Donovan Mitchell, Darius Garland, Evan Mobley, the coaching staff, the Cavaliers as an organization. They realize they have to get better in every way possible, top to bottom.
And so what you ended up seeing at the end of the game is, okay, in this series, if Donovan and Darius don't do anything, we're screwed. If Donovan and Darius don't hit shots, we're screwed. There was
Yes, yes. You have to be able to win in a nuance of ways to win a championship. You can't just win one way and win a championship. You have to have other guys on your team that can contribute to the success and the overall competitiveness of your team.
no effort to get Evan Mobley into certain spots.
None at all. None at all. Thank you, sir. I mean, he's saying it. This dude right here is saying it, man. No nuance to your offense, man. You say this dude said earlier in the video that JB Bickerstaff loves to play big. Well, utilize your bigs. Put your bigs in a position to be successful. There's no reason why Evan Mobley only averaged about 10, 11 points per game this season, or this postseason, this series. There's no reason for that. All throughout the regular season, Evan Mobley averaged, 13, 14 points a game, maybe 15? That's unacceptable. Evan Mobley has entirely too much talent to only be averaging 14, 15 points a game. I would be on Evan Mobley's you-know-what all season. Dude, you need to be averaging 22 and 12, really. There's no reason why you are averaging less than 20 points a game. There's no reason why you are averaging less than 10 rebounds a game. Never. You should be offended. You should be disappointed whenever you average less than 20 and 12, 20 and 10 in a game.
Don't even know what his offensive game includes. I don't know where he likes to get the ball. That just means you haven't tried to develop it. You can't go into.
Yes, and that's what I mean, man. I'm not saying JB Bickerstaff is a bad guy. I'm not saying he's dumb. I'm not saying he doesn't have a high basketball IQ. None of that stuff. All I'm saying is, man, you need to bring in a coach that can actually bring out the best in all of your players. Simple as that. And I don't think that he's that guy.
Season and just say, here you go, and then wonder why when everything bogs down, everything slows down, people are looking at you. And here's another indictment on JB. The bottom line is the pace of this team is entirely too slow.
I agree with that.
They are.
Thank you. I'm glad somebody saw what I saw as well, man. The pace of this team was entirely too slow. The Cavaliers were down double digits in the fourth quarter in multiple games, and I saw Donovan Mitchell walking the ball up the court, trotting the ball up the court, and by the time they actually start getting their offense going, it's 14 seconds left on the shot clock. You burned 10 seconds just bringing the ball up the court, taking your time. You need to play at a more faster pace, man. If you're down, you have to play fast to get back in the game. You're not going to get back in the game slow and steady like that. You have to play in a faster pace, man. You have to speed the pace of the game up. The Cavs be playing in one pace the whole game. That's why I said the New York Knicks were killing them in transition, because the New York Knicks would get out in transition fast. And the Cavs weren't doing that. That's JB Bickerstaff's fault. And he didn't make any adjustments throughout the series at all.
Not an old, decrepit team. They got guys that are athletic, and Garland and Mitchell that can get out. Evan Mobley can run the floor. Jared Allen can run the floor. Why are you playing the slowest pace ever? That means you get no easy buckets. You get no transition buckets. And
They never throw those long Kevin Love passes.
You can never.
Yeah.
Everything is the defense is set looking at you and saying, "Give me your best shot."
Yes, that pretty much sums it up, man. You know, defense gets set and they're able to predict what you do, man. You allow them to get set. There's oftentimes in the last, couple seconds of a game, the last final 10 seconds of a game, a lot of times the coach won't call a timeout because they don't want to allow the defense to get set. So they just let the player bring the ball up the court and they'll just live with whatever the results are. Same thing in this series, man. You can't allow the defense to constantly get set, and that's one of the reasons why the Cavaliers were giving up a lot of points in transition, because they weren't set on defense. So, yes, the Cavaliers need to get faster. They need to get increase and up their pace of play. And next season is going to be a litmus test for the Cavaliers roster and their coaching staff. Because if JB Bickerstaff is brought back next season, that's going to be his last season. He has to at least make it out of the first round. Really, he has to be competitive going into the second or third round next season. Otherwise, he's going to be let go. But I'm going to sign out of this, brothers. Don't want this video to be